Keep it up one more minute. Keep it up, you're so great. Standing, talking, you got me checkmate. No one's watching or nothing.
Good morning, hello, welcome back. So let's do something completely different today, shall we? So this is a walk I've been on a couple of times now, and it's very, very pretty. We've got rivers, we've got waterfalls, we've got an abandoned church, and then right at the end we've got Tintin Abbey. But today we're going to take all of the landscape photographs in infrared. So this is either going to be brilliant and it's a really good idea, or it's going to be absolutely crap and you will see the worst of my photography. But let's go. For those of you who've been with me for a while, you might wonder where Bruce has gone. Bruce is getting old now, so he's 10 and he really can't be bothered. So it's more cruel than anything else to bring him with me, so he's at home.
I have cleared out the room, also that you can get to be the big spoon. Cuddle me blue. Take me to the edges of you.
Does feel good to be free again, to travel. So even just nipping over the Welsh border is quite good. It's quite. So here's the piece of kit that I'm going to use for today's photographs. It's a Hoya and it's infrared R72. So basically it cuts out most of, not all of the visible light except for the infrared. So you need a very, very bright scene.
There's no time to be proved. I let you kidnap my tongue in. I let you measure my waist and intense fire will take us higher than higher. Ooh, cuddle me blue. Take me to the edges of you. Ooh, ooh. Cut through.
So I've only had the infrared filter now for about a week, and I've only actually taken it out over a field, but I've done a lot of research online, and one of the things that shows up really well is living things, so like trees and flowers and what have you. So a photograph of a tree that I took, if you took it without the infrared filter on, just would have been a tree and quite boring. But I took that, did the editing in Lightroom and Photoshop, and showed it to a few of my mates, and they all went, wow! And it was actually just a tree. So I think it's just because people are seeing things that they don't normally see. Infrared photography is not something that you'll see on a daily basis anyway, and it's the images that they produce are more art. Anyway, I'm going to take a photograph of these flowers now because the sun is shining on them and I just want to capture it in infrared and see what it comes out like. So when you put the filter on, It's obviously quite dark, so when you look through the viewfinder, it's going to be difficult to see the object that you're trying to photograph. So what I found is on the Z7 anyway, you can boost the brightness of the EVF and also the monitor screen at the back, and that really helps. The autofocus is quite hard. So what I found is if you take the filter off, do your focusing using the autofocus, switch it to manual focus, put the filter back on, and then take your shot. I think from what I saw there on the preview at the back of the camera was that's just going to be a big blurry mess. But it's all about experimenting, isn't it? Imagine if you went out and you took perfect shots every time you went out. You wouldn't be bothered, would you? Because it'd just be like, yeah, done it. So it's good to experiment. So when you're going to check your raw images in Lightroom, they're all going to look red, and that's perfectly fine. That's what they're supposed to look like. So what you need to do, so what I found is when you're in Lightroom, change the white balance right to the cold end as much as you like. Take that image then into Photoshop, do auto tone on the image itself, and then you do channel mix, which appears in one of the drop downs. I can't remember which it is. And that'll get to a fair approximation of what you want really, and then obviously do your fiddling. If you want to go back into Lightroom, save it, and it'll pop up in Lightroom when you go back in there, do all the changes that you want to do, go back into Photoshop, do your burning and dodging, whatever you want to do. Bob's your uncle. So do it. There's no right or wrong, to be honest, because if it ends up pink or green or turquoise, who cares, because it's your image, so just do what you want. Getting distracted now because there's another cascade down here. So I guess this is one of the main difficulties you're going to have if you choose to shoot in infrared, is having enough light. Now there might just be enough light dapping through the trees here to get this waterfall. So again, I'm going to put the filter on. It'll probably be a 30-second exposure. With probably also quite a high ISO, so let's see how it comes out. And obviously I'll take one in normal anyway, just so you can do the comparison.
Baby, I will let you in. Can you feel the 779? Tell me you do.
So that cascade down there was bloody brilliant. What an idyllic place to be. Car coming. What an idyllic place to be. There's a bit of a scrabble down the path, but it's absolutely worth it when you get down there. You could have sat there for an hour. And when you come out of there, you come to this pond behind us. So that's a perfect place for doing an infrared image, because there was a reflection in the water. The sun was shining really brightly from behind me, so I'm hoping that's going to be a perfect example of what you should do with infrared camera.
Cuddle me blue. Take me to the edges of you. Cut
So we're heading uphill now, away from the dam and the wireworks, and there's an abandoned church at the top here. It's quite a hefty hill, and I think the Welsh bugs have been going hungry during lockdown. They're chewing the crap out of me. Just on the way up the hill to the church, there's a very, very pretty scene here, and there's also a bench so you can have a rest after the hill. But if you look through, there's lots of light and dark and different coloured greens, and the clouds as well. So that's, in my head, is a perfect situation for putting the infrared lens on and taking a shot. And tell me what you think.
Take me to the edges of you. Every little inch of my skin, baby, I will let you in. Our eyes are closed when we start this loop on repeat. Hear my chest, how it beats when you.
So I've not actually photographed a building before in infrared, so this should be a new one. Obviously it's not going to move, so that's going to be good. There are some cracking clouds behind it. There's some foreground interest here with the gravestones, although it looks like this graveyard hadn't had the grass cut for about 10 years by the look of it, so it's going to be a bit messy, but I don't think it's going to matter in infrared anyway. So it's a cracking subject. I loved it. Obviously no one comes here, so let's get the camera out and take a shot.
Put your hands on me. Time goes fast, but yet so slow. I leave all thoughts, yeah, I let them go. 'Cause I'm here with you, and all I need is you. It's so easy to be us. We lock ourselves up from the world we're lost. It's so easy to be us. We lock ourselves up from the world we're lost.
It's so quiet and idyllic here. It's really gorgeous. No one here. This looks brilliant through the viewfinder, but anyway, we'll see. It's a 30-second exposure. I really like that. It's so dramatic. I think what I'm going to do is move slightly that way, because the gravestone's taking up too much of the foreground, so I'm just going to put it off to the right. Get the clouds. Infrared seems to love clouds. I can't look through the viewfinder with my shades on. It does struggle to focus with the filter on. It does it. So I think I want a shot from the front as well, so I'll have to look for some foreground interest down there. I just really like that. It's very, very good. Let's have a good old-fashioned leading line, shall we? So the path going up to the church. Let's do that.
Don't know what you really feel, but I really like this dream. Don't need to feel anything but you floating in my bloodstream.
So this is going to be the last shot of the day. I'm not paying to go in the Abbey, but and there's not much in the way of composition from the roadside either. So I'm going to take the shot just to see what it looks like in infrared, to be honest. And then that's it. So if you've enjoyed this, please let me know. Drop me a comment, give me a like, or subscribe if you like what I do. See you next time.